Hi, and welcome to your Urban Connection. Remember, this is the channel that is often imitated, but is never duplicated. Now, I want to tell you and remind you folks that on my last show, I talked about Donald Trump bragging about the fact that he was receiving 27% of the black vote for this upcoming presidential race in November. Now, if you recall, I told you that was all hogwash and that Donald Trump was using fake numbers and fake photographs where they were taking photos of groups of African Americans and superimposing Donald Trump's photo in to make it look like he was amongst a group of black backers. And I told you those were photos that were generated by artificial intelligence, AI, meaning that those were fake photos. Those were fake supporters. Donald Trump, I reminded you that if he had 8% of African Americans supporting him, he would be lucky. Now, why did I say that? For a very good reason. At any time, any given time, you will find 8%, I'd say 8 to 9%, nine tops, of African Americans who will be willing to lick the boots of someone who is not looking out for them, who is not loyal to them, and who does not have their best interest at heart. And in this particular case, that happens to be Donald J. Trump. Well, I want to tell you about what's happened since I did that podcast last week. Donald Trump, since he has now been declared the likely candidate to run against Joe Biden, Donald Trump has taken actions to try, well, basically not try, he's basically taken control of the Republican Party. But this latest thing that he's done is something you have to hear about. You see, Donald Trump has now taken control of the party and the RNC, the Republican National Committee. Now, here's what he's done to make sure that they dance to his music. He's inserted, well, first of all, he got rid of the previous RNC chairman, who'd been there since I believe about 2015 to 2016, got rid of her and put in people that would be more loyal to him. And one of those was his daughter in law, a woman by the name of Lara, not Laura, Lara. Lara Trump, who's the wife of his son, Eric Trump. She's been named co chairman, along with another gentleman whose name escapes me. But I want to talk about this. And I want to tell you what they're doing. And they have no shame about it. As a matter of fact, it made headlines. And I want to show you the headline. So Donald Trump talks about the amount of African American support that he has. And if he had 23%, which he's bragging about, he would never do this. But this is what they've done, and this was released today. Just take a look at this. Read that headline. The RNC says, make the RNC white again. Okay? This is what was said. And they also cut their minority outreach program permanently. And I want to read that again. The RNC wants to make the RNC white again, and the minority outreach program has been cut permanently. I want to ask you a question. Does that sound like someone who is having 23% of the African Americans supporting him? Now I want to show you the picture of Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara, Lara Trump. Okay, there she is. She's now the co-chairman. She, as a co-chairman, has said they don't want anything to do with minorities, black nor brown people. Okay, they don't want anything to do with you. They don't want you in the party. Okay, and like I said, they don't have any shame. They said this. In other words, they want you to get the message. Your vote, your services are not needed in Trump's GOP. All right. So that's total contrary to what I told you about a week ago that Donald Trump was bragging about. But you got to ask yourself one question, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to tell me Donald Trump served as president for 4 years. I want you to tell me one person, just name one person that Donald Trump was loyal to during that 4-year term as president. You see, he demanded loyalty from everybody, but he gave loyalty to nobody. All right? So you have to take that with a grain of salt when Donald Trump comes out talking about and bragging about how many blacks are going to vote for him, what kind of support that he has, because he's lying. He doesn't have it. Okay? And the GOP and him, look, you have to believe that this effort to make the RNC white again, ladies and gentlemen, they would not do that without the consent and the backing of the man at the head, Donald Trump. Okay? So this is Donald Trump's doing. He wants to get rid of all minorities, and in particular, black and brown minorities. Okay? Now listen to this. The Republican National Committee is cutting its minority outreach program after a takeover by the Trump's loyalists who plans to steer as much money as possible to support the former president's campaign. The RNC has decided to scrap an effort launched in 2022 to engage voters in heavily minority populations, particularly in Latino communities. You hear that, you brown people? Before you start making and pledging your allegiance to the GOP, or should I say the Donald Trump's GOP, you better know what the hell you're doing. Okay? Now, one source told the Daily Beast the tagline might as well be "Make the RNC white again." Okay? Now, you see, folks, you've got to understand, going forward, the GOP is all about one man and one man only, and that's Donald J. Trump. So I want to tell you about somebody I talked about last week, Tim Scott. You see, Tim Scott is being played like a cheap fiddle into thinking that he has a chance of becoming Donald J. Trump's vice presidential candidate. And let me just tell you, I've said this before, it's not going to happen. You see, I'm going to tell you something else. See, Tim Scott is being played mightily by Donald Trump. He's sucking up to him, licking his boots, telling him, "Oh, I love you." He turned his back on and threw Nikki Haley completely under the bus. And she was the one responsible for him being in the Senate. But he threw her under the bus because he wanted to suck up to Donald J. Trump. Now, I want you to think about this. Donald J. Trump was the loudest voice in 2014, 2015, basically all the way up to today, against having Barack Obama as a black president. So now I want you to think about this. Does Tim Scott not have enough common sense to understand that the last thing that Donald Trump wants to see in the White House is another African American? Okay? So why would he put him in place so that the other white supremacists and white nationalists would have to refer to Tim Scott as President Tim Scott in case something happens to Donald J. Trump as his vice president? It's not going to happen. Never in a million years. Okay? You see, Trump's GOP is basically a white man's party, a white male's party. Look, they've lost the female vote. They've lost it. They've lost the suburban white women. They've lost the urban white women. I mean, urban women, all right, and white women and black women. They've lost all of that. They've lost women in the suburbs. They've lost the rural women. Okay? So they don't have a firm grasp on the Latino vote. And as you can see here, they're cutting ties with them. Now, I want to tell you something. If you use common sense, you could figure out that you cannot win a national presidential race when you're only getting votes from white men. There's not enough of them, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the direction. Now, let me say this, and all you have to do is look in Congress, look at the House of Representatives, look at the Senate. You've got in that group men who will do what they're told because they're so afraid of Donald Trump's white men. And among those are white men. Jim Jordan, Ted Cruz, Latino man. Mark Rubio, Latino man. You got one of them that just resigned, a white male, just resigned because even he cannot take any more of this crap that's coming down as this becomes more and more and more of Donald Trump's GOP. Okay? Senator Buck just resigned. And he had announced earlier that he was going to not run for re-election in November. But then just 2 days ago, he announced that, hey, not only is he not running for re-election, he's getting out of there March 22nd. And he's saying you can have this and take it and shove it. Okay? And that's what he's saying. When asked, hey, why are you doing this now? Why the urgency? He says, look, you see what's going on with this party. You see what's going on with the Republican Party. They stand for nothing. Okay? I mean, they stand for nothing. They're a train wreck. And they're getting all behind Donald Trump. For what? Donald Trump is a loser. With Donald Trump, we lost in 2020. We lost the presidency. In 2021, we lost the Senate. Okay? In 2022, we lost again. In 2023, we lost more. And it looks like in 2024, the Donald Trump-led GOP will lose once again. All right? So those guys are resigning because you see, those guys are, some of them are slightly conservative, but a lot of them are moderates. And they find that there's no place in Trump's GOP for people like them. You see, Trump is clearly wanting to be a dictator. And he don't want those kind of people standing in his way. So he's trying to get rid of them. And they're listening and they're hearing his message and they're moving out of the way. And he talks about Sleepy Joe and Crooked Joe. No, no. The State of the Union convinced people that the picture and the narrative that Trump and his groupies were trying to prevail and convince you that Sleepy Joe, who had dementia, who couldn't say two sentences without stuttering, who could not put a complete a sentence together, and Joe, to his credit, stepped up to the plate in that speech and spoke coherently, articulately, and professionally for over an hour. And you know what, Joe? You know what Trump and his associates said? Oh, what did they give him before that speech? They had to give him speed. They had to give him something. We can't believe our eyes. We can't believe our ears. Joe Biden got through an hour-long speech coherently, professionally, intelligently, articulately. And now the American public is hip to our lie that we've been telling ever since 2020. Can you believe that I saw Donald J. Trump refer to Joe Biden as the worst president in history, as the most crooked president in history? Donald J. Trump. Have you looked in the mirror lately? You will see who has been the worst president in history. You will see who has been and is still being the most crooked president in the U.S. history. So you can't hang that label on Joe Biden, okay? And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I just want to tell you this. Here's what really has the GOP up in arms. You see, Biden's approval rating after that speech at the State of the Union improved by 17%. Okay? That backfired on Donald Trump's GOP. His fundraising set a record in the first hour after that speech, and then broke that record the second hour, and then broke that record the third hour. And he already had a sizable lead in funding over Donald J. Trump, because you see, Donald Trump's money is all going for lawyers to fight all of these criminal acts that he's facing and these trials that he's facing. So he doesn't know what to do, ladies and gentlemen. He's in a pickle. They don't know what to do. So what are they doing now? They're looking for people that they can cast aside, and they're looking to do that with Black and brown people. They're saying you're not welcome in this party. Since we are the Donald Trump party, we are the racist party. We are the national white nationalist party. We are a party of white supremacists, and we don't have room in this tent for you African Americans and for you Latinos and you Hispanics. Now, the question is, will you all get the message? Will you all heed the message? But I said, I know, and I cannot speak for Latinos and Hispanics, but I already know that in this election, there's at least 8 to 9% of African Americans who will lick the boots and throw themselves all over Donald J. Trump, no matter what he stands for. But that has a ceiling. And like I said, it's only 8 to 9%. The rest of us have enough common sense and enough respect for ourselves and for our country, and we have enough dignity to know not to go anywhere near a ballot for Donald J. Trump. Stay as far away as you can. They're doing everything but telling you right here, right now, that they don't want you in their party. They don't want your vote. They're casting you away. And I've said before, MAGA, you've got to understand what it really means for Make America Great Again. That has always stood for Make America White Again. Some of you people have been slow to catch on, but now it's it's a policy. It's in black and white. How in the world can you not understand that they don't want you? They don't want your vote. Okay? So why is it that it takes this effort to get your attention? For the life of me, I'll never understand it. But this is Donald Trump and Donald Trump's party. And you're not welcome in this party. Now, certainly, you wouldn't want to go to somebody's party when you were not invited, would you? I wouldn't. I mean, you'd certainly have to feel completely out of place, and you would be out of place. And you would look like a fool, and I'm sure you would feel like a fool. Now, as I've told you, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, um, Dr. Uh, the HUD Secretary, Candace Owens. And let me just tell you, speaking about it, there's a couple of, since I've been doing these podcasts, I've come across a few African-American podcasters who are Trump bootlickers. So you have to be very careful about who you trust, okay? Because you know what they say, folks, all skin folks are not kin folks. So be careful. Don't be misled. These people trying to convince you to join the Trump train, which is going to take you to a deep, deep hole somewhere. Because this is Donald Trump's attempt to instill himself and install himself as a dictator in American politics. And that's not good for you. That might be good for Donald Trump, but that's not good for you and me. Don't be fooled. But just remember this. You've been warned. And if the message that was released today, if that's not enough to open your eyes and raise a hair on your head and wake you up and make you think not twice, but 4 times before you're conned by one of the greatest con men this country has ever seen. Okay? You're swayed by the worst former president we've ever had, the most crooked con man we've ever had, the most crooked president we've ever had, in the name of Donald J. Trump. Okay? So, like I said, you've been warned. I've told you. And, you know, there's an old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. I'm just leading you to the water, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Take it for what it's worth. Yeah. You've been warned. You can't say I didn't tell you so. I'll see you the next time.